Hello, hello. It is 4:30 on Thursday, which means it is time for another episode of At the Maker's Table with Minnesota Monthly Magazine. I'm Jared Scott, the aesthetic editor of Minnesota Monthly and Midwest Home Magazine, and I'm excited today to be joined by Amy Thielen, Give a Girl a Knife, and everything else up from her home. We'll get her joined. She is quick. All right. Let's see how this works. There she is.
Hi.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear
How
me?
are you today?
I'm good.
I have one more little piece of business to do before we
Oh, I'm so
begin.
sorry. I cut
No,
off
you're
your
good.
intro. Go ahead, please.
You are quick. No, I was just going to say that we are brought today from iBobs, Bold Readers, Blue Light, and Prescription Eyewear that help you make 7 statements a week. Are you wearing iBobs?
No, but I'm wearing, glasses. No, I'm sorry. I'm not.
I'll get you some iBobs. I'm sure they would love to get you some iBobs.
That's great. I need reading glasses now. So
Yeah,
awesome.
we all do when we hit that age. All right. Well, I think one thing that we have learned from you is that you can't be a spectator. You have to be a storyteller, and you have to share your roots, the roots of the dishes. You champion the Midwest like I do, which makes me very happy to be talking to you about Midwest things today. But we have to go back. Minnesota is about the spirit of Minnesota Monthly, is about the spirit of Minnesota. So how does living in Minnesota influence your work, Miss Thielen?
I think it permeates my work.
Absolutely.
By the way, I really like your background.
Thank you. I chopped all that wood myself.
That's a real wood pile?
No,
Oh,
it's a lovely, it's a lovely graphic from Murals Your Way, a Hopkins-based company.
well, my whole winter is really about firewood. We have 3 wood stoves that we're keeping going, so I'm just like really impressed and in awe of that stacking and that. Yeah, it
If
looks good.
only, if
You fooled
only.
me.
But I love on your feed, you said in a post recently something about your feed is dark and brown because it's candlelit and wood fire, but
Yeah.
it's you. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, Minnesota's such a huge part of what I do. My next book, slightly less so, but or not as overtly,
Okay.
But yeah, that was it. I really didn't actually expect that I would move back here when I was young. I thought that I would leave my small town and really never turn back, never
Yeah.
look back. um, but I'm really happy to be back. And you know how it is with Minnesotans, they're kind of migratory. They leave for a while and they return because it really is beautiful.
I
Especially up north.
we've been here 23 years. We came for a 1-year graduate program for me and stayed.
Hmm.
So I'm a Kansas City boy. So
Right.
good
Where were you?
good
Where are you
Midwest.
from?
Right outside of Kansas City, Olathe, Kansas. So on the Kansas side. So we love it. I know this plate well and the Midwest palate. But let's dig into kind of, I think with all cuisines, but there's something about Midwest cuisine that every ingredient has a purpose, every dish has a story. Do you ever worry about how you represent or how you have to protect that Midwest cooking? Or, I mean, do you still find people that are dismissive of, oh, what the hell's she doing in Minnesota? Or
That's a complex question, but initially I think I was attracted to a book about Minnesota because I was cooking in New York City. I was a line cook, in like the brigade system in Manhattan fine dining. And yeah, people were a little bit dismissive of Minnesota, the Midwest. But at the same time, I was working with all these Europeans who had come from the country, from the Austrian countryside, the Italian countryside, and they were excited to be in New York where everything was new and they didn't have to follow any rules, you know. But at the same time, I was like, making these connections between country food in Europe and country food here. So, at that time, I really wanted to elevate it, I guess, or, make the point that it was a great cuisine that really is kind of based on the ingredients. So in a lot of ways, it has a lot to do with Italy or Italian food because especially where I'm from, so northern Minnesota, out in the woods, if people don't know, near where the Mississippi starts. You know, the food is pretty simple, but people are really, really, really keyed in on the ingredients, like fresh potatoes or corn when it's ripe, things like that. So that kind of laser focus on, you know, knowing when a food is perfect to eat and then not doing that much to it. That was something I wanted to talk about.
So talking about ingredients and seasonal ingredients, what are you obsessed with right now?
Oh, I mean, right now is like the dead zone, pretty much.
Anything? Don't you have something pickled or something?
Oh yes, totally pickles. Yes. No, I have stuff. I'm nothing growing. Everything's starting to melt. But yeah, I have all my preserves. You know, I didn't do as much as I wanted to this year. I really usually do a lot of canning.
Yeah.
Jam making, pickles, things like that. I do fermented pickles that I'm pretty addicted to. And I make this strawberry sun jam, my grandma's recipe, where you put it out into the sun and it evaporates under screens.
For real?
And yeah, no, it's really good. It's really, really good. Anyway, I'm down to like, I don't know, 3 or 4 jars of that. And I use that kind of as currency to trade people for other stuff, you know? So very low on the strawberry jam.
All right. What are you longing for? What can you not wait to be fresh and ripe and ready to go?
I'm really craving fish so much. I eat a lot of meats, and yeah, I want some fresh fish.
I was reading, I got the book out again. I think what I love about the book is growing up in Kansas, like we had, you know, the fancy, my mom is not a cookbook person, but I worked in a library. So I looked at all the fancy cookbooks and Southern cookbooks and all that. But I think yours was the first one that had Midwest in the title. That wasn't like a church basement lady cookbook that made it legit. So, but I like how you talked about fish. And I grew up, my dad is the oldest of 13. So when we went to the farm to visit my grandma, like it was exactly that. It was fishing. It was out of the river, the Grand River, and you cut them right there in the boat and they bleed out. And that's the freshest fish you can get.
What kind of fish?
It must be like catfish and I think sturgeon. Maybe. Yeah, a lot of catfish.
Wow, yeah. Sturgeon. I love sturgeon.
Yeah.
It's so hard to get.
Tell me, you know, when I talk to makers, I talk about their craft and how they learned it and all that. And I think for you as a chef, what does it mean personally to you just to be a chef?
Well, I mean, I'm a different kind of cook than I was when I was working professionally on the line. You know, I think back to it and I'm like, wow, I was really fast. You know, I was really fast when I worked professionally and I was like, you know, I could make things really quickly. And now, you know, you lose a little bit of that. But I think that I've gained something too, where it's a bit more of a meditative space when I'm cooking now. And it's probably, you know, it's definitely more creative. But yeah, I like to leave some loose ends so I don't like things, I don't follow the same recipe every time once I get it down, unless it's baking. Otherwise, I'm always like changing it up or tweaking, things like that.
Is it still sentimental for you? Does everything recall a childhood memory, or are you always making new memories, or why is it so sentimental?
Food? Why am I like, I mean, I don't know. I think that, yeah, my childhood, I was one of those kids who probably absorbed a lot and was a little serious at times and was one of those staring off into the distance kids. So yeah, those things, those memories, they hit me pretty hard, and especially the sensory stuff. Yeah. Like when I'm smelling things like that my mother made, you know, it really kicks in a lot of memories. Was mealtime in your house a sacred time where you all came together? Or was it just like, get it on the plate and you're supposed to just like it? Oh, no, it was definitely a sacred time. My mom, I mean, that's what she did. She was a stay-at-home mom, and she would cook like half the day. I mean, I would get home from school and we'd watch Great Chefs. Do you remember that series on PBS?
Yeah.
And my brothers and I, all 3 of us, you know, laying on our bellies on the carpet watching that and, you know, making notes. We're like, Mom, make that. And she, you know, she went to the store like every single day. So every day. Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, cooking was a really big thing, and food was, people are very opinionated about it in my family. it's not like you just sit around and say, oh, good. Everybody critiques it. And sometimes it gets a little intense, you know? Like, people will cry. My mom and I have both cried different times, kind of like, oh, you guys don't like it, you know? Because they're really, you know, there's a high bar. And, but also there's a lot of appreciation. And when things are right, you know, I made a meat pie for Christmas. That's my family's tortilla. It's a French meat pie. And I sent it to my brother because of COVID. He couldn't be with us, right? And he came back with like all these superlatives on text. And I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Like, you really like this? And he's like, no, I'm serious. Like, it's really good. And I was like, wow, you know, it was that meant a lot to me.
Yeah. My dad was a produce manager in a grocery store. So my mother went to the store, same thing. And I remember, I think when I talked to Heidi from Serious Jam, we were talking about fruits and like, I remember growing up, like kiwi was the most exotic thing you could get. Like, I remember my dad bringing kiwi home or starfish.
I remember when kiwi hit the market, we were like, what is this furry thing, this furry egg?
Fuzzy and those seeds and So, but I remember just like, you know, he knew when everything was freshest and to bring it in, and we always had a garden. And so it is that sense of there's pride. And if you have a hand in not just the preparation of it, but the growth of it, or knowing that chain, it just makes it even more special.
Yes. I mean, I grow a lot of food in my garden now. But growing up, my mom didn't, because she had been a little bit traumatized by growing food from her, you know, it's her mom. So she'd done a lot of picking and hoeing and garden work. And so she was happy just to go to the store, and she, you know, so we were really like, I've actually interviewed some of the produce managers at times and gotten their numbers, because I love talking to them, because they really have their finger on the pulse of what the town eats, you know?
Yep.
They do. And they actually are kind of in control of it. So I'm always trying to sway them too. I'm like, if you get more shiitake mushrooms, I will buy like 4 a week, you know? Yeah. I remember saying that to them when I moved back from New York and they didn't carry them. I'm like, I'll buy them.
When are you coming to the cities again?
I don't know.
Well, next time you come down here, I'll take you to R&R Cultivation. Do you know about them?
No.
So I had them on. They're two guys that grow mushrooms in the aeroponics, like it's a mushroom farm. It is phenomenal. And lion's mane and shiitake, and they're all Minnesota grown. They do all the mushrooms now for Lunds and Byerly's and great restaurants around town. But just seeing that operation, and it's in Roseville, Minnesota, and it's just phenomenal. But
yeah,
we'll go play.
Cool. Yeah, I'll go on a field trip to a mushroom place.
You know, we talked about ingredients, but I think also as important as ingredients are those tools that we grew up with. The wooden spoons, the mixing bowl, the lefse pan you talk about. So what, are there any tools from someone's past that you kind of covet that you wish you had, or?
I mean, I have so much stuff right now. I mean, I'm like, if I could get rid of some of this stuff, I would, because I have way too much. But the other day I was using the hand mixer, and you know, years ago I switched to the standing mixer. But I got out the hand mixer and I'm like, wow, this is kind of underrated, you know, because wow, it's a lot easier to clean. And number two, there's something kind of meditative and hypnotic about that mixer, you know, and it's like just going around, and it's making.
And you want to bang the sides every once in a while.
What?
You bang the sides on purpose just to get that vibration through.
And I forgot, just using that mixer, I think I over whipped the cookie base of that dough because I was so into it. And I'm like, God, I forgot about that. Yeah, that sound, everything. So I think that's kind of underrated. And then I was thinking, I'm like, gosh, I got to get an electric knife. Why don't I have an electric knife?
Oh, yeah.
Another thing that needs to come back, you know, but other than that, I have a lot of hand tools. I mean, I have everything. It's ridiculous. Yeah. But one thing I'm glad I bought that I really like, and it's a new purchase, is a balloon whisk. You know, those are really big.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so it's like an expensive whisk. You're like, gosh, do I want to pay $30 for this whisk? Yes, you do, because it's amazing. Like, I can whip egg whites and whipped cream, everything by hand within, like, it takes no time at all.
I have a whisk collection.
Oh,
because so in undergrad, I worked at the library, and then they opened a Dean and DeLuca in Leawood, Kansas. And so I was a concierge for
nice.
Dean and DeLuca. So I bought all those tools that like I'd never seen. Like there was nothing. I mean, there was maybe one Williams Sonoma in Kansas City. I mean, we didn't have all those whisks and open whisk and split whisk. And so that's what started my whisk obsession.
Well, I'd like to see that too. I mean, whisks are there's a lot of whisks.
Yeah. All right, let's see. So taste, do you feel like you're always kind of cataloging tastes that you've prepared and what's been prepared for you and just recall? I think that chefs and home cooks just have this incredible library that they can call upon. And how do you sort through that when you're starting something new?
I mean, there's no spreadsheet, you know.
There's all those tabs in your head. That's all I'm saying.
I don't have an Excel.
Do you write it down or is it all in your head?
It's all in my head.
Yeah.
But I usually get out like an index card and I start sketching what's my menu going to be. So I start with like the ingredient that I have that's the finest or the best thing I have and then build from there. I mean, I think it's just a lot. It's a lot more creative, you know. It just kind of flows. I don't know. What was your? I mean, like I don't really know.
Yeah. Do you think either from your time in the restaurants or just putting a plate down in front of the family, do you think about plating and all of that, or do you just, you know? I think the main thing is it's delicious and it's a bonus if it's pretty, or do you always think plating and is that part of the process?
I think about plating quite a bit, not necessarily for like a Tuesday dinner, you know, but I think about colors.
Okay.
And how they go together.
Yeah.
You know? I probably wouldn't make like 3 green vegetables. You know, I think about contrasting colors, and textural. Really, it's more a lot of that composition of making a single recipe or a whole plate. It's really about the textural where they meet, that juxtaposition. Yeah. So if, you know, you've got your creamed corn juice and then it seeps into a little bit of that squash and you know that you mix, you know, that's a good place to be. So, you know, I'm thinking about those things. Or if I have like meat juice from like a pork chop, I'm like, where's that juice gonna go? You know, I see my mom's on there. Hi, Mom. And now my friends are saying hi to my mom. I love this. Hi. So
hi, Amy's mom.
My mom is Karen Dion. That's her.
All right. So tell me about that meatloaf. I think you called it a Meatloaf Wellington. I am a meatloaf boy. And when you posted that, I was like, that is my next adventure.
That's a bad boy. Yeah, that was I thought, you know, it was like a ski day. We were skiing. People are using a lot of calories. And I thought, wow, what if I just, you know, wrap that meatloaf in pastry? And I thought this could be a really bad idea, you know, like it's pretty junky, but oh my God, it was great, you know? But that around the edges where that meat juice, like it was like some of the pastry fried in it. It was so good. I was like, is anybody watching me? And I would, you know, my dog is like, are you going to eat those? And I'm like, yes, I'm eating them all. And you're not getting any.
I love it.
So good.
Oh, I can't wait to try it. All right. So you've probably done this before, but I'm just going to ask you, since your mom's on, what would you say to her? What's the biggest thank you can give her for the teaching you to cook and what you observed?
Oh, I mean, yeah, in my book, you'll see, like, I write a lot of stuff with my mom. She's a really good cook, really good. I also write about my grandmother, but one thing I've realized is, like, my grandma was really good about, like, talking up a big game about stuff she did. She created kind of a mythology, but it was my mom who really taught me how to cook.
Yeah.
And I watched her, you know, across the counter every day. And I don't know how much, I didn't really join in that much. I was kind of like, you know, let me wipe this counter. Not really that. but just by absorbing what she was doing, watching her, every little tiny thing, the way she cleaned the mushrooms, the way that she pared the apples. And you don't realize, like, cooking, it's a craft, not so much an art necessarily. And there's so much to it. And so to teach somebody how to do it, I mean, it's like, where do you start? You start with these foundations. My gosh, that's so boring. It's like scales on the piano. I I learned so much just by watching, like just
Yeah.
tiny little things that made me a better cook because I already knew it, you
Yeah.
know?
And I
And the other
think,
thing yeah, go ahead.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I just want to say that, I mean, beyond teaching me like all of those details, and also cleaning, which was really, really a huge part of cooking. Also, my mom, like, being a woman, she didn't ruin food for me, or she didn't ever say that I, was too chubby, even when I was. There was a small time in high school that I was, and it was like, she didn't ruin food for me,
Yeah.
And as a woman, that's an important thing, especially in this career, that I have this very, I think, healthy relationship with the pleasures of food, and I get that from my mom.
Good. Good.
Yeah.
I think part of it too, I think our grandmas are good cooks. They're amazing cooks, but I think there was there was a little mystery. Like, we used to get to my grandma's house when the meal was ready to hit the table. So there wasn't that kind of powers of observation and being in there and smelling everything cooking until I think I was older. But it amazes me when we look at kind of that Midwest canon, like my grandma, my dad's mom, she probably, looking back, was like a pastry chef. I mean, like, she made like mile high meringue and the white angel food cake and all those things, but
Yeah.
just did it on a wood stove. Like, I mean, bathroom was kind of added on many years later, 13 kids in that house. I mean, it was just, and so
Wow.
looking back, I wish I would have learned more from her.
Yeah.
And I wasn't always surprised, the grandson out fishing and running around. So I did spend time with the
In the
ladies.
kitchen. Yeah.
But I loved it. And I think that there's so much power to that communal cooking and not just what hits the plates.
Well, and also, I mean, did your grandma follow recipes, or was she
No.
doing it kind of more by feel?
Yeah. Always feel. I think, and
Baking by
that's,
feel. That's incredible.
yeah. And I remember, like, just, like, we always had, and I saw it this summer when we were home, a green glass 7-Up bottle. That is what they would turn the angel food cake upside down on to get it out of
Oh,
that.
yeah. Yeah,
So
yeah.
I said to my mom this summer, I was like, I think I need that bottle. And she's like, not yet. But yeah, I think there are those things that, like, you just want because there's just something so tangible to the memory of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to think. I mean,
You got to have something.
Oh yeah, I do. I have everything.
Yeah.
It's like I can't choose. There's too many things.
Yep.
We ate a lot of steak in my house growing up, and so Fridays it was all about a lot of steak. It was that steakhouse era. It's kind of glitzy, the 80s. And my mom and my dad, they both liked a medium rare and really charred on the outside. So I grew up from a young age. I never was squeamish about rare meat or medium rare.
Yeah.
So I think about steaks a lot. I cook a lot of it, and it's like that juice running into the potato and, yum.
Did your mom grill, or was that your dad's business?
I would say I do remember my dad grilling a little, mostly my mom. But we had a house that was like a suburban kind of 70s house that did have a grill inside in the kitchen.
Oh, fancy.
And, yeah. And, you'd turn it on and that fan would just be like, super loud. But my dad he would grill there. Yeah.
Okay. I think that you can transport, a bike can transport, back to childhood, back to region, back to field it came from, where whatever you want to say. But what do you want people to think about when they cook from the Midwestern table is what we're talking about. What kind of do you want people to draw upon when they eat from that cookbook?
I think I want people to pay attention to those details and to see the details that I think are important. And I tried to write that book in a way that was really evocative. Like all the recipes for pie are very, very much, they're very evocative. Like you pack it on, like you'd make a snowball, you pack the dough together. It's those little things that recipes are just recipes. It's either a good one or a bad one, but it's that, those little details, whether you can see something, and whether you can feel it.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you can feel that dough is right when it feels like clay and it's kind of heavy, and
Yeah.
those are the things that make like a decent baker into somebody.
Oh, you paused for a second.
Oh,
There.
I did.
No, I think I did.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Am I
We're
back?
good. No. I think they heard you. I think the other thing too about, I just love the way you write. I mean, I remember the first time I met you at Linden Hills Farmers Market. I was so enamored with just seeing and the way you talk and the way you write and that the way you talk about even one of your posts about talking about the lady who baked the cakes down in her tiny little kitchen.
Yes.
Where was that? I can't remember.
That was in Latvia.
Yeah.
That's a recent one? Yeah. Yeah, and she was working on a wood cook stove. Yeah. It's cool.
And I think people are so, I think the other thing about Midwest is that we're humble. Like we know our roots and continue to honor them. When do you think in your life or in your career did you think you really had found your voice as a chef?
I mean, I'm always like, I'm kind of going between these two different things, like writing and cooking. And one thing I say to myself is kind of a joke is that the relationship between them is parasitical, like one feeds on the other. And so I feel like that when I moved back home from New York, things really gelled for both those things. As a chef, I was kind of set loose from working professionally, and so I could really just create. And when I came back, we had the apples were starting to produce, apple trees were making apples, and things were happening. And then writing, I think that I started doing a column for my local newspaper, the Park Rapids Enterprise, and I wrote these columns and I took photos, and it was $20 a week. And I think that that's when I was writing to the people of my hometown. That's when I really found my voice. Yes, I found my voice then. That was the voice I wanted to use. That was what felt true. And then I'd walk around town and people would just, tell me what they thought of stuff.
All right. And probably tell your mom too.
Well, she wasn't here, but they would have. Yeah. Like one lady, I walked into a diner and I had put up a cake on the column the week before, and it was kind of a complicated cake. It was like a birch de Noël or whatever. And she looked at me and she just stared at me, and she didn't even say hi. And she just said, "I would never make that cake." And I just said, "That's okay. You don't have to." But she was like, "That's way too hard."
Yeah. Now, do you ever use a cake mix?
I do with my son.
Yeah. I like a good cake mix.
It's okay. You put homemade frosting on it. It's fine.
What's your favorite cake?
Oh, gosh. I like more like a pound cake.
Okay.
There's a recipe in my book that's like it's a honey and pear pound cake, and you have the whole pears that are caramelized inside, and then when you slice it, you get into the fruit. I much prefer fruit to chocolate.
Okay. I don't know. I love a good yellow cake with like fudge frosting.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. All right. So is it dinner or is it supper? What do you call it in your house?
We say dinner.
Okay.
Yeah. Did you grow up saying supper?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it's because we were a little further south.
I think that there is kind of a line. Well, my husband's family, and they're from southern Minnesota, they say supper, but they have more, they have more of a direct line to a farming tradition as well. And I think that's more of a farming thing than, my family wasn't really that close to that heritage, so supper. Yeah. We lived in town. We said dinner. Sorry.
So do you consider yourself today, do you say chef? Do you say cook? Do you say cookbook author? What do you consider yourself, for a bit of it all?
A bit of it all, but I say cook and a writer.
Yeah.
I think of myself probably more as a writer whose subject is food right now. Because when I think about what do I do during the day, I mean, I'm cooking and making recipes and making food constantly. I mean, we don't have any restaurants here even before COVID. But, it's writing that takes probably the most of my time, and the crafting, I put a lot into that.
And you're a ski mom now.
Did you see that?
Yeah. So I just had a call with a bunch of acres, and Sarah who has winter project artists, the backpacks, the canvas backpacks. She
Oh,
said to
Sarah
tell you,
McNerney.
yeah.
Yes,
She said,
I'm friends with her. Yeah.
tell her hi, and she needs a backpack. We have to get her a backpack. So
Oh,
maybe I'll send you a
hey,
backpack
Sarah.
and some eye bobs.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And what do I
Um,
send you? I only have 4 jars of jam, but I'll send you a jar of jam.
oh,
One of them will have Jared written on it.
yes. What advice do you have for home cooks?
I mean, right now is a really weird time. But one thing I've been doing more of, and I always used to do too, is cooking 2 dinners at once. I mean,
Yeah.
or not 2 full dinners, but when you're in the kitchen, it's dinner time. You know, I just like throw something else in the oven for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Make extra rice. You know, the oven's on to bake something. I just like put a squash in there. You figure out what.
I think the kids call that meal prep or whatever.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. I guess they call it meal prep. Yeah. Mise en place. Yeah.
What do you think of, are you a leftover person or do you only make what you're going to eat?
Oh no, we subsist on leftovers here. That's our. I mean, do we even eat it fresh? There's so many leftovers. It's just, it's like leftover kingdom in there.
Do you warm it up as it was made or do you transition it to some other dish?
I heat things up on the stove sometimes. My husband really likes the microwave.
Okay. There's a new show on Netflix that we've been watching that's like a leftover challenge. And they're supposed to totally transport like Thai food to brunch or, I mean, it's a crazy show. And I guess this is a whole thing where people transpose their leftovers. But if it was good one night, I just warm it up and have it again.
Yeah. What do you like to cook? What's your...
We do a lot of, I do a lot of cast iron stuff. So a lot of different, like chicken thighs, and we do fish, and I'm married to Greek.
Nice.
So I get all that Greek kind of food as well. But we're pretty straightforward, pretty Midwestern fare, a good protein, a good salad or some sides. And I did make biscuits last night.
Yes, your biscuits looked good.
I did. And I'd never done them with that yogurt. Like I'm a buttermilk biscuit guy.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, I have yogurt in the fridge, so I just thought, you know, otherwise it's like, how many kinds of dairy are you going to buy? It's like heavy cream, milk, you know, sour cream, this. It's like, geez, Louise, buttermilk. So I just kind of whip it up, you know, yogurt and sour cream and milk. And I mean, honestly, it could be anything that makes that measure, you know, that's a little sour.
Yeah. No, I loved it. All right. So COVID aside, what you did for your brother, I think is amazing with the meat pie dish. But if you could just share a meal with anybody, who would you share a meal with right now?
I mean, there's so many people on this feed that I want to be eating with right now. My mom, my friend Chelsea. I would like to go visit actually both of them down in the Southwest. Yeah, I would like to go somewhere and be in some warmth. So yes, I would like to go to the Southwest. I'll stop at Chelsea's house, Flagstaff, go to my mom's.
Nice.
In Arizona, and just take the train down there.
All right. All right. You mentioned the new book coming out. What can you tell us about it?
So it's a book about entertaining, or, I mean, it's kind of loosely because it's not like there are no napkin rings or anything even resembling formality there. It's a book about cooking for other people, but it's kind of, the voice is like more intimate, and I'm not concerned so much about what happens once the people get there.
Okay.
It's really more about having that really, really good pre-game time in the kitchen as a cook, and how do you enjoy yourself, and how do you play, you know, and just make something great. And because I love that time. I love those 3-4 hours, that anticipation of having people over. It's going to be a fun night.
Yeah. But
this book is really all about, you know, me to you. You're cooking. I'm here. We're talking through this, and you're reading about it 2 days before, and we're going to make something really good. And this is how we're going to do it.
So in your house, is it all hands on deck when you're entertaining, or is it stay out of my kitchen?
Oh no, the party's usually in the kitchen. And I used to have a really small kitchen, and we added on to our kitchen. But even when the kitchen was tiny, everybody was in there. We'd have like 25 people. You'd have to like jump over the dishwasher when it was open, get to the fridge. I mean, people love to be like packed in like sardines, you know?
Yeah.
They do.
All right. Your mom said she wished you could come for dinner tonight. I'm going to ask your mom, Karen, what would you be cooking for dinner if she was on her way down there right now? Let's see what she answers. What would you want your mom to cook for you?
Well, we have something in my family called the meal.
Okay.
And it's a pork butt roast cooked forever. But, you know, usually people cook those in a moist environment, like a braise. My mom does it dry, like on a rack. And if you do it slow enough and low, and it's like that outside gets very crunchy and crisp, and it's very fatty. It's not light, but it's delicious. I haven't had it in a while. It's something I don't really make because, I don't know. Pork chops and a homemade mushroom cream sauce.
Nice. Now, do you always get it right, Amy, or do you sometimes finish a dish and you're like, that one's not going anywhere?
Oh, all the time. Oh my gosh. There's more dustbin stuff than successes for sure.
All right. Well, anything you want to say to the people out there listening right now to keep our hopes up in this COVID time?
Yeah, it's tough. It's going to be over soon, you know, and it's going to feel so sweet to get back together with people.
Absolutely.
I mean, food is kind of a conduit, but it's really hanging out with people that I realize that's what I miss the most is just, I'm not stressed out in the kitchen. I don't want that. And so this entertaining takes on this new thing. You just should not stress. Who cares if it works out? It's really not even about that.
Yeah.
I mean, I shouldn't even say that, but it's kind of true.
But I think a lot of people put so much pressure on themselves, especially in this age of Instagram. And my God, if I looked at one more banana bread, I thought I was going, and sourdough starters and all that stuff a year ago, that just was too much.
I think it's too much in general all the time, frankly. And I mean, my stuff doesn't always look like that. My stuff looks pretty rustic. I just think nobody's baked goods look perfect like that. Somebody's spending a lot of time to get that right. They're not just like banging it out. And then you wonder, why are you spending that much? You know, like there's life to be lived here. Let's just take a picture of the cake and go.
Yeah. And good lighting helps. Somebody asked me about my pictures and I was like, it's a tile over our kitchen sink with a light hanging directly above it. There's no time spent. And oftentimes I take a bite before I remember to take the picture.
There you go. It's got bite marks in the frosting.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that.
That's what I want to see. I want to see your bite marks in the frosting, honestly.
All right. She said she'd make her Caesar salad with homemade croutons too.
Oh, yeah. I made that the other night. I tried to. Caesar salad is good.
Tried to. What was the issue? It just wasn't mom's?
It wasn't exactly the same. The croutons were pretty darn good, though, I gotta say. Right. I mean, I just remember she put a lot of butter on the bread, and I did. And I went, like, people think I use a lot of butter. She thinks I cook lean, you know? Like, so when people give me that, I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, my food is too dry, you know? So
I love butter.
A lot of butter, right, Mom?
Nothing wrong with butter. Salted or unsalted, or depends on what it is.
She used salted, but I'm now into the unsalted. I like unsalted.
And are you one of those that knows it's grass-fed and all that, or butter is butter?
I like Land O'Lakes unsalted, you know?
Yep.
Unless it's, one thing I've found is like for cookies or things that are like kind of a dense bake, not a cake, but like that chew, when you want like something that has that chew, Kerrygold.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the secret to a good crouton? Just a lot of butter?
Well, good bread, the right bread.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of butter. Oh, and then garlic powder and salt. I've been using that more during the quarantine.
Nice.
Not quarantine, but COVID. Yeah.
What about anchovies or no anchovies in a Caesar dressing?
Definitely anchovies.
Yeah. I just did a cooking segment and the lady's like, I don't like anchovies. I was like, then it's not a Caesar salad.
No. I think my mom used anchovy paste, but, you know, think about, speaking of grocery stores back in the 80s and 90s, you know, they just didn't have them.
Yeah.
Up in northern Minnesota, we didn't have anchovies. Now, I mean, I use real, whole anchovies, but yeah.
How has the grocery market scene changed up there for you? I know you have your lady that makes kimchi now, and the community's embraced kimchi.
Yeah, that lady, she's in this tiny little store that's like a thrift store, and they sell all kinds of stuff. Yeah, that's the kind of thing it is, though. I mean, there's a main grocery store that's pretty encyclopedic. It's pretty good. It's better than you might think it would be. And then there's little stores that I go to, like, little gourmet stores but I don't really buy a lot of that stuff. It's not like I'm buying prosciutto and capers. I do buy capers. I get those in the cities, though. I do a little run when I go to Minneapolis, and I go to France 44, and I get, salted capers and certain kind of pasta, and,
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're going to go to the mushroom farm next time you're down here.
Yes.
All right. Any other advice or anything you want to say? And we'll wrap it up.
I mean, just keep cooking. We can get through it,
Absolutely.
We'll get through it. And it'll be really nice to be in a restaurant again, though. I have to say, I want somebody to serve me.
I agree. All right. It has been a pleasure to get to know you a little better and to see your smiling face. And
this has been really fun. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. And a pleasure to talk to your mom in here as well. We listened to Give a Girl a Knife when Michael's mom was sick and we were driving back and forth from Kansas. And so I feel like I know her a little, know Karen a little, I guess. So, all right.
That's so sweet that you listened to my book. I read it.
I know. All right.
Thank you for listening.
Very, very much. And I'm going to close this out.
Okay. It's been a pleasure. It was so fun to talk to you.
It's been a pleasure. Take care.
I'm going to call you some other time for my commute.
Absolutely. I'd love it. All right. Thank you so much. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for all tuning in today. You can read the digital edition of Minnesota Monthly at minnesotamonthly.com. Follow us out at Minmo Mag, at Mr. Jared Scott, at Amy Rose Thielen, and iBobs. Grill Fest is coming up. Buy tickets to that. And until I see you next time, make something, be safe, cook something, and thank you to iBobs. May your life be every bit as interesting as your eyewear. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.